So in a previous video, we talked all about what Copilot Cowork even is. There are so many new terms and capabilities and agents introduced by Microsoft all the time that sometimes we just need to step back and say, what does it even mean first? Once we know what it means, then we can start to dive into how do we use it. In this video today, we're going to walk through a little bit of my Copilot Cowork as I have it set up. Brand new, haven't done a lot with it, but I want to walk you through a couple things that I've asked it to do. Remember, Cowork is a task based agent. I'm looking at it as my personal assistant, and I've begun to offload some heavy things to it. Let's take a look at exactly some of the things I've asked it to do and how it's pulled them off. Now, you can access Copilot Cowork in a couple different places, namely the M365 Copilot standalone app, or as you can see on the screen here in the m365.cloud.microsoft web landing page that takes you to your M365 Copilot just in a web-based form. And once we're in here, and again, all prerequisites have been met, I'm properly licensed, all that good stuff, you have the Copilot chat that we would typically see right here. And you should see or will begin to see the Cowork right up top. You can toggle right over to that. Now, once we're in the Cowork tab, you'll notice the options on the left side are different. It's very task-based already. It's not chat-based. Create a new task right here. My tasks. So here's a couple things that I've already had it work on for me. Here's scheduled tasks, which I have not added to do anything yet for a schedule, but I could say, hey, do this for me on this scheduled basis. Customize. This is where we can go and say, look, we want to extend the capabilities of Cowork to include additional third-party plugins, which will allow us to go beyond the work IQ of our work environment and start taking in data from third-party areas like Canva, for example. Maybe we want to discover things we've created in Canva with our team. We want to pull that into the things we're asking Cowork to do for us. There's plenty of other plugins here. If I go ahead and say show more, you can see the list gets a lot longer, as well as these skills. Now, there are several built-in skills for Cowork: PDF, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, HTML. It's a long list there, meetings, communication. There's a lot of things that it can do. And then you can add custom skills as well. You can either upload new skills or create them on the fly where you describe what it is that you want Cowork to do for you. Now, if we come back to new task, as you'll see here, it shows you some of the things that I've already done. That's cool. It gives you a few other things as recommendations: organize my inbox, arrange my week, prep for a meeting. These are things that you're curious about the tool, you're not sure where to start. So these are some low-lying, easy, things to just try out for the first time. It can go into your email, go into your calendar, see what kind of stuff you have, do a little organization of your inbox, help you start to imagine exactly what it's capable of doing, right? For me, though, I gave it some things to do right off the top without having to try out any of those. I started with a couple of these things, and the first one was simple. If I go over to my tasks, you'll see the first thing I asked it to do was schedule a meeting with myself. I went in here, and if you go to the top, I said, look, I want you to send an email to me at this personal email address. Tell him that I'd like to schedule a 30-minute meeting with him in the next 2 days and suggest some of the better times for me based on the availability of my current calendar. And my calendar was wide open, but that's beside the point. If it was very cluttered, it would go and help me find the best times. It came back and it said, look, here's what I've got for you. I'm going to suggest these 3 times just because you're wide open and I'll just pick some. And here's the format of what I want to send. And before it actually does it, it prompts me and says, do you want me to send it? So even though you're delegating tasks to Cowork, you still have to approve what it's doing. You're not going to say, hey, do this thing, and it's going to go rogue and do some crazy other. You still have to approve what it's proposing that it's going to do for you when you're telling it to take some of these actions from a communication standpoint. So very useful safeguard there. And it gives you that peace of mind that, yes, that was my intention, please proceed. So it's gone through, it did that, thought for a little bit, tried a couple things, didn't work, retried them, it did work. Scrolling on down here, it gave me a summary of what happened, and I will let you know that, yes, I did successfully get an email in that inbox from my account that this Cowork is associated with, and I was able to then respond to it and do whatever. So very powerful stuff. You can then interrupt the message you gave Cowork as well and say, hey, I actually want you to add this in, or don't forget to add this into the message, or before you send it, try doing this instead. So this isn't just a, here's this, try it, darn it, it didn't work, back to the drawing board. It's like you're sitting there having a conversation with your assistant. I want you to do this. Okay, here's what I think. No, 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 no. Wait, I just remembered. I have this going on. Do this instead. Send this communication. Let's also send a follow up so you can get really granular and specific with it and give it instructions while it's in the middle of thinking. Now let's go over to something a little more complicated that I gave it. I thought of a fictitious business idea, and I thought, you know what? Let's take a little idea that I always thought would be kind of fun to do, but I don't know if I'll ever do. And I asked it to create a Word document for me that created a full blown business plan for launching a new breakfast taco truck. All right, that would appeal to the small town I live in. I want to describe what I wanted the food theme to be like, model it after the popular breakfast taco scene of Central Texas. On top of that, I wanted it to take into account how it's going to be funded, all the expected slash needed amounts for sales and food pricing in order to make a healthy profit, and then turn it into a creative and fun PowerPoint presentation, but one that was still business ready for presenting to a blender, for example. Now, this took a little bit longer because this is a pretty heavy lift, but what it does is it comes over here and says, here are all the steps that I'm going to do as I do this. It started to do a few things, and I interrupted it here and said, actually, leverage the researcher agent for the financials piece, if that is helpful for getting a complete picture. To be honest, I didn't even know if you could do that. It could. It turned around and said, good call. I'm going to use the research agent. I'm going to dig deeper onto the financial side so that we make sure we've got the right picture to pitch to a bank. It then went through, generated imagery, did all these steps that it said, built out the financial model, created the brand visuals, took a little while in creating the Word business plan, but it created a whole big document with the kind that you would expect to present. And then at the end, it created this PowerPoint presentation. And again, as you'll see through here, there's a lot of me going in and interrupting it and saying, oh, make sure there's a path that includes zero money down, as if that's ever going to happen. But I want a zero down option built into the business plan. Okay, do that for me. And then I said, ensure it's fully baked. Include things that I didn't even think about, but that are important to lenders. Make sure you include a next step section in there as well. This is all stuff I added after the fact. It stopped, it pivoted, it recalibrated, and kept on with what it was doing, adding these new components in. So we go all the way down, a little bit of this back and forth. It does a whole bunch of stuff, gives me a Word document at the end and a PowerPoint. Now, if I click on that Word document, look at that. That imagery, it created a name. I didn't give it a name. It created the imagery there. It gives me this full-blown table of contents, 13 pages with all these 21 different areas. And look what it includes in here. There's SWOT analysis, 3-year financial outlook, the startup costs. Let's scroll down and see a little more of this. We got breakdowns here of break-even points, the executive summary up top, the menu as proposed, the amount you need to sell each day, how many customers you would need, a market analysis. I mean, this is pretty comprehensive stuff. You would obviously want to go in and do some tweaking to this, make it more your own, make some adjustments based on what you think your business plan needs to be successful. But this is a really good, rock solid starting point. All I had to do was ask it to do that, make a few tweaks, and then I went and did something else. I used my time to do something else more valuable to me while I let Cowork do all of this heavy lifting and get this whole project started. As I scroll on down, I asked it for next steps. Sure enough, we've got next steps about what's going to happen here, registering the LLC, all of it. Now, if we close that out, let's take a look at our presentation, because if you'll remember, we asked it to create a PowerPoint presentation. There it is. Click through it. Now, could have done a little better at making the images sized appropriately for the way it was structured in the PowerPoint, but still, this is pretty good. Breaks down some key points. What is the opportunity in the industry? It's an underserved industry, 70% margin on breakfast tacos, which has me thinking maybe I really do need to get into breakfast tacos. And then we, keep going on. It's got other things broken down here. This is what appeals to people about this business. This is why you'd want to do it. Here's the proposed menu. Here's even like a combo option that includes coffee. Some other financial facts about where it's going to be located, why it's going to be located there, what it's going to take to do that. Who's our audience? Who are we going to reel in? This is just the startup investment as it's broken down here. All these different things. I didn't do any of this. I didn't create these numbers. I didn't do the research. I didn't create any visuals. I just gave it those handful of prompts, interrupted it a couple times and said, do this for me. while I go do something else. This is where the rubber hits the road. We might have thought about Copilot before as a glorified search engine, even though it's a lot more powerful than that in terms of what we can use Copilot for. I still might want to go out to Copilot and say, help me do some analysis of what this business would look like. What's actually popular? What direction should I go? And get a lot of different refined details from Copilot before I then go to Cowork and say, great, I have what I need from Copilot. Go do all these tasks for me. This is where we start to build real value. These deliverables, these documents, these are hours and hours of someone's actual time. Research, building the document, putting it all together. I spent a few minutes and I handed it over and I let it do everything. And I didn't have to do it one step at a time. I didn't have to say, create the Word document. Now go create the PowerPoint. No, I said, here's all the things I want you to do. Now go do it. And I'm going to interrupt you and you're still going to pivot and do it well. Now, as you can tell, after my brief experience with using Cowork to do a few task-based things, I'm pretty enthusiastic about what it can do. It's creating a little bit of a believer in me about how it might be able to actually, I can go through, look at some of my tasks that I've got throughout the day, even some that aren't the menial ones, some that are important, and I can hand these tasks over and I can at least say, get me started, create the baseline, do your best with all the work IQ that you have at your disposal, and create, build, do, schedule, communicate, all that stuff. And I will go in and I will approve the actions and I will fine tune them where I need to. And my day, my productivity level has just soared through the roof. Not by working more hours, but by using the tools, the AI-based tools that are present for us. I hope this illuminates your mind and your view of what you can actually do in Microsoft 365 Copilot with Cowork, this new agent, this new assistant, as I like to think of it, sitting there doing all this task-based work for you. If you did find it helpful, throw a like on it. Please subscribe to the channel if you're not already. I mean, if you're not subscribed already, what are you doing? Get subscribed. Thanks for watching this one, and I hope we're going to see you back here for the next AI-powered workplace-centric video.